This is my first video update coming to you from Athens, Greece on this Sunday morning. That's a No Doubt song, actually. I'm not going to sing it because I'm a terrible singer. But let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with... let me get my coffee open here. All right. Let's talk about the big story, which is Trump is back on Twitter. I guess we can mention that. I guess we could talk about Trump being on Twitter, and some people are freaking out. A lot of people are freaking out. A lot of people are rejoicing. Elon Musk put out a Twitter poll, and everyone voted in agreement. The majority of the people who voted on the poll voted in agreement that Trump should be let back onto Twitter. And Elon Musk, he says, okay, the people have decided Trump is going to be reinstated. And then Trump came back with a reply and he said, thanks, but no thanks. I'm comfortable here on Truth Social. Actually, he didn't say he's not going to come on Twitter. He just said that he's something along the lines of he's okay on Truth Social, but he didn't quite rule out Twitter in his message. Either way, that's not important. The important part is that Trump has been reinstated back onto Twitter. This was a good marketing gimmick from Musk, though I don't think this should be the rule as to how you allow people back on the platform. I don't think you should have holes. Whoa.
I love you.
Thank you. You startled me for a second.
I don't know you, but I love you.
Oh, thank you.
Why? Because you smile all the time. I love you.
Thank you very much. Oh wow, that startled me. I didn't see him coming. Anyway, wow. Let's see. What was I talking about? Letting Trump back onto Twitter and how this should not be the norm. This should not be the way that Twitter allows people back onto the platform. My belief is that the best way to allow people onto the platform is just to have good management. You don't need committees or independent juries or anything like that. Good managers, good management, a solid TOS, a very simple and solid TOS that is rooted on the principles of the First Amendment. And I think you're good to go, man, with as far as who you should allow on the platform and who you should not. And, people should be removed under very, very extreme cases. Anyway, there are people that have analyzed the situation that know much better about this topic than I do. But Trump should accept this offer. I know he kind of hinted at, he didn't say no to Twitter. He didn't close the door, but he hinted that everything's okay on Truth Social, which is understandable because he's invested in Truth Social. It's his company. I'm sure he has certain clauses in the agreement with Truth Social, or certain issues there as far as him going on to other platforms or what he can say on other platforms. Perhaps he has a clause in his agreement with Truth Social or his investment with Truth Social, which says that he has to post on Truth Social before he posts onto other platforms or stuff like that. I don't know exactly what the deal is with what he has agreed as far as Truth Social is concerned. But Trump should just cross-post. That's simple. Post onto Truth Social first, and then cross-post onto any platforms that allow you to post. You are a presidential candidate, and so as a presidential candidate, you should try to get out there as much as possible. And that means Twitter and Gab and Parler and Rumble and Truth and ODYSEE, everywhere. Trump should be trying to post everywhere he can and just make Truth Social your first, your hub. Let's say that's your first post. Your first point of contact where people can find you is on Truth Social, and then post everywhere else, including Twitter, because Trump is going to get a huge following on Twitter. I think he was at 0. I think they reset his account to 0, and now he's already at something like 25 million or something like that, last I checked. So, that's what Trump should do. It's that simple. And maybe there's some things that you can't post on Twitter, you can only post on Truth Social, that's fine. But just cross-post. Simple solution there. So anyway, that is the big news. And that is the right thing to do, is to reinstate Trump and reinstate all the people that were banned for the wrong reasons. And I think that pretty much covers 99% of the people that were canceled on Twitter. So all of those people should be reinstated, but no polls and stuff like that. That was just a good marketing gimmick from Musk. Musk is a brilliant marketer, and that was a nice gimmick. But going forward, Musk should just rely on very good, solid management, a good TOS, and the First Amendment. That's it. That should be your roadmap going forward. So something that went viral yesterday was Italy's Meloni. The Italian Prime Minister's Meloni, her rant during, I don't even think you can call it a rant, her statement, and I think this was on an Italian talk show or something like that, where she blasted Macron and France and what they had done to Burkina Faso and how they were exploiting Burkina Faso and Africa. And this was pretty epic. I'll play a small part of it, but I don't think I can play the entire thing for copyright reasons. But I will try to find, actually I will find that that video, and I will put it in the description box down below. That you can find it with a search. It's gone mega viral, so it's going to be pretty easy to find this video. Anyway, let me play just a small segment of it, and then I will return and give you my thoughts.
L'oro che questo bambino si infila in un cunicolo per tirare fuori finisce per lo più nelle casse dello Stato francese. Allora la soluzione non è prendere gli africani e spostarli in Europa. La soluzione è liberare l'Africa da certi europei che la sfruttano e consentire a queste persone di vivere di quello che hanno.
So that was Meloni blasting Macron, blasting France, calling out their neoliberal imperialism, and that's what Meloni was calling out. France's neoliberal imperialism, and she was making her case with regards to migration, basically saying that instead of exploiting these countries should be allowed to live off of the wealth of their natural resources, and we should do business with these countries and trade with these countries instead of exploiting them. And if we traded with them and treated them as peers and partners, then we wouldn't have a migrant problem, because we'd be helping these countries, or these countries would be helping themselves. They would be helping themselves to grow and prosper, because they have just a ton of natural resources that they can put to good use. Sounds very much like what Putin has been saying all this time, doesn't it, Meloni? I think Meloni should probably listen to some of Putin's speeches over the past couple of months, where he pretty much says the same exact thing. No, he doesn't pretty much. He says the same exact thing that Meloni was saying, or that Meloni is saying. And Meloni, in her statement with regards to Macron, who I think she does not like very much. I think she despises Macron. But anyway, her statement in reference to Macron and to France, well, Meloni, that carries over to NATO as well, and to what's going on in Ukraine, doesn't it? The exploitation of countries, the imperialism, neoliberalism, globalism. So I hope Meloni, when the time comes and she has to call out NATO expansion and NATO imperialism and globalism and the EU neoliberal globalism, I hope when that time comes, Meloni will also call out all of these institutions and these people as well, though I doubt she will, because Meloni has already made statements in the past that she's very much aligned and a part of NATO. So just saying, I liked her statement. Absolutely spot on. Meloni was absolutely spot on, but she hasn't been saying anything that Vladimir Putin hasn't been saying for the past 8 months, for the past 8 years. So, and Meloni needs to take note, because what she is talking about is exactly what NATO and the EU and the globalists have been doing and are doing to so many other countries. in the world. So that's my comment with that video that has gone viral. And now let's talk, since we're talking about NATO and imperialism, that's the story that I want to talk about. Let's talk about the Halifax International Security Summit that's taking place in Canada. I think that's the name, the International Security Summit. Anyway, it's taking place in Canada, and you have two very interesting speeches from two people who are very much a part of the NATO neoliberal globalist grift, and that is the Pentagon's Lloyd and Ukraine President Elensky, who was speaking via Zoom or TikTok or WhatsApp or whatever the hell he uses when he gives his speeches. So let's begin with, who should we start off with? Let's see. How about we start off with Lloyd Austin? So Lloyd Austin, he pretty much said that, well, first he said that Russia has a very impressive arsenal of weapons. Okay, so that was the first thing that he said. But he said these weapons, they have not been able to make the difference in this conflict. He said, you know, the Russians have a massive military and impressive weapons, but this hasn't helped them prevail in a campaign of conquest and cruelty. He also said that the war is about the cause as well as those who fight it. And that is why Ukraine, according to Austin, is doing so well. He also noted that President Biden has done a great job rallying nations of goodwill against Russia's attempt to redraw our borders by force. And then Austin delivered what I think was the most important line in his speech at this summit. He said that the U.S. will stand by Ukraine for as long as the conflict lasts, as long as it takes, is what Millie likes to say, and that's what Austin also likes to say. That's the phrase that they've been using now for the past couple of weeks, right? As long as it takes. We're going to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. And then Lloyd Austin insisted that the outcome of the Ukraine conflict will determine the course of global security in this young century. So the entire future of the globalist, neoliberal NATO agenda for this century has been put onto this conflict in Ukraine. That is pretty much what Austin is saying. The entire neoliberal globalist agenda hinges on the outcome of Ukraine. U.S. hegemony hinges on the outcome in Ukraine, which is a very, very dumb thing for Austin to say. Very dumb thing. You should not put all your eggs in one basket, especially if that basket is called Ukraine. That is a very stupid thing to say. But of course, Austin is saying this because he wants to continue the support for Ukraine for as long as this thing can go on, because there's a lot of weapons. Lloyd Austin coming from, where did he come from? Lockheed Martin or Raytheon? Lloyd Austin being on the board of one of these big MIC companies. All the money that's been poured into Ukraine, all of the money washing that is taking place in Ukraine, FTX, all of these things. Obviously, Lloyd Austin is trying to make the case for a long war. That is what Austin wants, a long war. It's going to be good for business, good for donations, good for the money washing, good for the military-industrial complex, good for the globalists. They want the long war. They don't want a Russian victory. I don't even know if they care about a Ukrainian victory at this point, to be honest. They would just like this war to last a good 10, 15, 20 years. Eventually, yeah, they would like a Ukraine victory and to put NATO in Ukraine as well. But I think that a lot of the globalists now, they've come to the understanding that, or at least a significant faction of the globalists have come to the understanding that they're not going to win this war in the near or medium term. And their best outcome right now is to try and extend this war for as long as it takes. And that is the line that they're using now, for as long as it takes. That's what we hear them all say now. You know where they got that line, by the way? The script writers in LA, Hollywood, DC, and London. I'll tell you exactly where they took that line, as long as it takes. They took it out of Avengers Endgame. I'm not joking. I am not joking. In Avengers Endgame, what do they say? As they're about to go on their final mission to save planet Earth, they say, whatever it takes. That's the line that they repeat. Watch the trailer. You'll see what I mean. So they lifted that line because all of these lines that they put out there, as long as it takes, whatever it takes, as long as it lasts, Ukraine fatigue, election deniers, these are rooms of script writers and marketers that are coming up with these lines. And then they distribute these lines to Trudeau and Sunak and Ursula and all of these people. And they tell them, these are your talking points. This is what you're going to say now, Millie. As long as it takes. Got it? Yeah, got it. As long as it takes. Austin, as long as it takes. That's your line. Got it? Yeah, got it. As long as it takes. As long as it takes. Okay. CNN, MSNBC. Yeah. We'll say that as long as it takes. Okay. So that is what Lloyd Austin said at the Halifax summit, and Elensky, he gave his little virtual speech, because what would a summit in Canada be without Elensky? How would Trudeau dare to hold a summit in Canada without inviting his best buddy, his bro, Elensky? And Elensky, well, his speech was quite interesting, because Elensky claims, and this is his claim, that Russia offered Ukraine, and I quote, a short truce. This is what Elensky is claiming, that Russia offered Ukraine a short truce. Let me read you what Zero Hedge says with regards to this story. It was revealed Friday by the Ukrainian side that the Kremlin has offered Kiev the possibility of reaching an agreement to implement a short truce. It comes as there are more and more signals from Washington that it's ready to see both sides come to the table for some kind of ceasefire agreement. Ukrainian President Zelensky said Friday that Russian officials had attempted the overture, but he rejected the possibility. At a moment, the Ukrainian counteroffensive has made recent gains, especially the retaking of Kherson City and many surrounding villages. Quote, Russia is now looking for a short truce, a respite to regain strength. Someone may call this the war's end, but such a respite will only worsen the situation, the Ukrainian leader said in a virtual address before the Halifax International Security Forum. Zelensky then reiterated his hardened resolve to not consider the possibility of talks until Russian forces are defeated. A truly real, long-lasting, and honest peace can only be the result of the complete demolition of Russian aggression, Elensky said. That is an interesting statement. Did the Russians really offer a short truce to Elensky? Who knows? I don't think they did. I think what Elensky is referencing and twisting for, the crowd at this Halifax security forum is the fact that Russia has consistently said, for the entirety of this special military operation, this conflict, Russia has consistently said that they are open to dialogue with Kiev and that they will sit down at the negotiating table with Kiev, provided the Zelensky regime does not place conditions, does not come into the negotiations with a long list of demands. And the Russians have also been stating recently that the Kiev regime understands the reality on the ground, i.e., the fact that Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporozhye, and Kherson are now part of the Russian Federation. That has been the line from Moscow from the very beginning, from the absolute very beginning. So I don't think that Russia actually approached Elensky and said, we want a truce. I think he's just twisting various statements, especially in the last month, that the Kremlin has come out with, saying that they're always open to negotiations with Kiev, given that Kiev doesn't come with a long list of demands, and that they realize the reality of the war situation, of the situation on the ground. So that's pretty much what Russia has been stating, and I think that Elensky is just twisting these words so that it makes it look like he's Well, he's pleasing the neocons pretty much, because I imagine at this conference you have a room full of neocons. So Zelensky is just talking to the crowd, and the neocons, obviously, they would love to hear that Russia is losing this conflict. They're begging Elensky for a truce. They're begging him for some sort of ceasefire, and Elensky is standing tough and saying, not only am I not going to give you a ceasefire, but I'm not going to stop until I take over all of Russia and the Russian Federation is completely destroyed, and I'm sitting in Moscow as King Emperor of the Russian Federation. That's pretty much what the neocons want to hear from Elensky, and that's what Elensky is giving them. So that's what I think is going on here. Though Dmitry Medvedev, he also put out an interesting post on Telegram, and he noted that there are forces in Washington that are trying to push Zelensky to some sort of peace, but there are other forces in Washington, as well as Zelensky himself, that refuse to listen to the forces in D.C. that are calling for peace. In other words, Dmitry Medvedev, he put out a Telegram post, and he said that Washington is torn as to how they should proceed with Kiev. You have the war hawks, and then you have a group in D.C. who are just more realists at this point in time. This is what Medvedev said. He noted that the collective West is growing tired of Ukrainian President Zelensky and is pushing Kiev into talks with Moscow. He also said that, and I quote, "Everyone is tired of the Kiev regime, especially of the neurotic Elensky, who is constantly whipping up tensions, whining, sniveling, and extorting more and more money and weapons, handouts. He acts like a hysterical child with developmental problems. Fatigue with Kiev and its actions is prompting the collective West to push Ukraine into talks with Russia." And he said, and I quote, "The US, NATO, and the European Union do not want a complete rupture with Russia, risking a third world war. Hence, the frequent attempts to rein in Kiev and bring it to its senses, to push it to negotiating." But Medvedev also said that by refusing to talk with Russia, Zelensky is actually pursuing much more mundane and selfish goals. Medvedev added that if Zelensky does not accept the reality of Ukraine's collapse, it is pointless to sit down at the negotiating table. And if he does not accept it, he will be taken out by his own nationalists who are intertwined with the army top brass. So that is what Medvedev said in a Telegram post. And people are getting absolutely tired of Zelensky. Zelensky really effed up with the Poland missile thing. I mean, there are politicians in France, in all over actually, and where else? Just in the U.S. There's a lot of people who are getting very tired of Zelensky, and they were very upset with his little trick, his little game to try and bait the world into World War III with this Ukraine missile in Poland thing. I mean, a lot of people were very upset. In Japan, you had the former prime minister in Japan, Mori. He criticized Zelensky over his little doubling and tripling down with regards to the Russian missile in Poland. You had French politician N. Dupont Aignan. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. He tweeted out that Elensky, by sending a missile on Poland and accusing the Russians, almost provoked the Third World War. Stop supporting this dangerous man. Urgency to find a peace plan. And Nicolas Dupont-Aignan is a member of the National Assembly of the French Parliament. So that's what he tweeted. Basically, you have a lot of people who are just sick and tired of Zelensky. Zelensky fatigue. Not so much Ukraine fatigue, but Zelensky fatigue. And that's what Medvedev is pointing out. But every time we get pushback with regards to Zelensky, and you get much of the collective West pissed off with Zelensky, what do the neocons do? What do the warmongers do? They send a UK prime minister to Kiev, and that is exactly what you got. So every time Zelensky finds himself in trouble, whether he's about to sign off on a peace deal with Russia and the neocons don't want it, whether he messed up with this Poland Ukraine S-300 missile, whether there are voices in the collective West kind of saying that Elensky has to go and they're sick and tired of Elensky and all of these things. Whenever Elensky finds himself in hot water, a UK prime minister goes to Kiev, and that is exactly what we saw with Rishi Sunak showing up in Kiev. And Rishi Sunak, while his own country is in economic meltdown, he went to Kiev and he pledged something like 50 million in money and weapons. Not a whole lot of money, not a whole lot of weapons, but it's the symbolism of it all. It's the actions. That's what I think is damaging to Sunak. Sunak showed what a freaking puppet he is. He is no better than Boris Johnson, no better than Liz Truss. He is the third puppet to come along with regards to this Ukraine conflict. He's the third prime minister puppet to come along and to be ordered, because that's what happened, to be ordered to travel to Kiev and to put Elensky back on course, because Elensky, once again, has veered off course. And much of the international community is sick of Elensky. They're tired of him. They're looking at him as a very dangerous, coked up, unhinged prime minister. He almost pushed the world towards World War III, even though he knew from the get-go, or at least his administration must have known from the very beginning that this was a Ukraine missile. Much of the collective West must have known that this was a Ukraine missile, but he played along for days with the narrative that this was a Russian missile and not a Ukraine missile, and we have to get NATO involved in this conflict. And many people are now looking at Elensky as a crazy man who wants to drive the world towards World War III. And so a lot of people are upset with Elensky with regards to Poland and the missile. A lot of people have lost trust with Zelensky because they see what Russia is doing to the Ukraine electric grid. They're now hitting the Ukraine gas infrastructure. They realize that Zelensky doesn't have any air defense systems in place to stop what the Russians are doing. They understand that a collapse is coming in Ukraine's energy infrastructure, which will lead to a collapse in Ukraine's economy, which will lead to a refugee crisis throughout all of Europe, because where are these refugees going to go? They're going to flood Europe. They're going to flood the EU. Even the BBC had an article just yesterday with the title, or the other day, when was this article? I can't find the date. Anyway, I think this was a couple of days ago. They read an article saying, "Leave if you can save energy, Ukraine power boss." The head of Ukraine's biggest private energy firm says people should consider leaving the country to reduce demand on the country's power network. Well, where are the people going to go? They're going to go to Europe. They're going to go to Hungary and Slovakia and Romania and Poland. That's where 8 million people are going to go when the energy system collapses. And there are rumors saying that Russia is going to collapse this energy system come end of November, beginning of December. And I've heard other rumors, and these are really, really out there rumors, but I'll tell you what these are. So don't buy into this. I don't believe these rumors, but I've heard out there rumors saying that the Kremlin has actually told Ukraine, this is your last chance to negotiate based on the realities on the ground before your energy system collapses. I don't know how true that is. I don't think it's very true, but I'm just throwing it out there. These are rumors. Keep that in mind. So, whenever Zelensky's in trouble, you send a UK prime minister there. Boris Johnson got along really well with Zelensky because I'm sure they found a lot of things in common. I don't know if Sunak is of the school of, I don't know if that's what Sunak likes to do, so I don't know if they're going to have the bromance that Elensky had with Johnson, but this shows you who's running what do I want to say here? This shows which country is pushing for escalation in Ukraine. This shows which country is running the warmonger escalation narrative in Ukraine. That is the UK. That is the UK deep state. They're the ones that are really pushing Zelensky hard to continue this war, to continue the conflict. They want to keep Elensky in Kiev. They want to keep Elensky on course, and they're the ones that really want to ramp things up. That's what this shows me. The fact that when Elensky ran into trouble again, the first person to travel to Kiev is Sunak. If Truss was the prime minister, it would have been Truss. If Starmer was the prime minister, it would have been Starmer. If Boris Johnson was the prime minister, it would have been Boris Johnson. But there's no doubt about it that the UK deep state, they are the handlers of Zelensky. They're the go-between. They're the interlocutors, I think is the right word, with regard to Zelensky and the neocon warmonger machine. No doubt about it. Anyway, that is Rishi Sunak. Rishi. What a shame. What a shame. It could have been different for Sunak. He could have gone down as a good prime minister if he had just done one simple thing and just pulled back from the Ukraine conflict and rolled back the sanctions. But nope. He has shown himself to be a puppet prime minister, no different than Boris Johnson. No different at all. And at a time when the people of Ukraine, the UK are suffering, he travels to Kiev. And he gives Kiev money and weapons. Not a lot of money, not a lot of weapons, but still. It's the symbolism of it, the gesture, the actions. That's what counts. So, Sunak is going to be a victim of the Elensky curse very, very soon. No doubt about it. He is going to be a victim of the Elensky curse, and he will be gone as prime minister. That's what awaits Sunak. But I'm sure as he leaves prime minister, he'll be given a promotion somewhere by the globalist class. So let's do a really quick clown world. And this clown world comes from Japan. And where is this story here? Here we go. This is coming from Japan, and the article, the title of this post, the governor of Tokyo, the title of this post reads, "How to Reduce Electricity in Winters. Wear Turtlenecks," according to the Tokyo governor. Japan energy crisis. The turtleneck is one of the tools to overcome the winter energy crisis, while being inventive, according to Yuriko Koike. The governor of Tokyo has urged city residents to wear turtlenecks this winter to reduce energy consumption. They are warm and overall energy consumption is reduced, so we can link turtlenecks to CO2 reduction, said Yuriko Koike. The life-savvy Ms. Koike called for an example from French President Emmanuel Macron, who is known to love turtlenecks, stressing that in this way, Tokyo is setting guidelines for officials to be seen wearing turtlenecks at meetings on this issue. Oh boy. You're going to follow what Macron is doing? That's going to be who you model yourself after, Emmanuel Macron? This was actually a clown world of mine about a month and a half ago because Macron pretty much said the same thing. His PR team, they dressed him up in a turtleneck and they said, this is the way that Macron and the political elite in France can set the example for all of the French population for saving energy, and that is to wear turtlenecks. So they had Macron dressing up in a turtleneck, and now it looks like the governor of Tokyo is following that example. That's how you're going to save energy, is by trying to convince people to wear turtlenecks. Okay. Clown world, everybody. Clown world. You know it's clown world when your political class in Japan is going to follow the example set out by Emmanuel Macron. So we've kind of come full circle in this video, haven't we? We started with Meloni and Macron, and we've ended now with Japan and Macron. From Italy and Macron to Japan and Macron. That's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. Look for us on Rockfin as well. Duran Shop, 10% off. Use the code. Good day. And now that I remember, I very rarely say this in my videos, but now that I remember, two things. Look out for those scammers who are pretending to be me in the comment sections on YouTube as well as other social media platforms, including Telegram. It is not me. I will never, ever ask you for a phone number or give you investment advice or anything like that in the comment section. So do not listen, do not contact, do not respond to these scammers. It is not me. I will never, ever, ever, ever ask you for a phone number or WhatsApp number or give you investment advice. So be very careful for these scammers. That also holds true for the Duran and for Alexandra's channel as well. And I never, ever say this enough. I don't know why. I don't know. I just don't like saying this, but every now and then I probably should say this. Like this video, share this video, and if you like this channel, please subscribe. Why not? Please subscribe. All right, everybody. Take care. Have a good day. By the way, the coffee today is Stadium Coffee. Stadium Coffee. Not bad. A good coffee. If you're in Athens, go to Stadium Coffee. Take care.